Story 1. I was blamed for the fact that she still worked at Winn-Dixie. We hadn't spoken in 7 years, and she didn't work there when we were together. Story 2. Last week, I received a message on my ex's birthday saying, "Thank you for hating me. I didn't send him well wishes for his birthday. We broke up last October, and I shouldn't have to remind him that he cheated on me. He's 46. Story 3. An ex-girlfriend with whom I was for 6 years and lived together, we occasionally argued, like every couple does. It may not have been the happiest relationship, but we loved each other and had never talked about breaking up. She said she was going to her mother's house for the weekend. I didn't speak to her for a year. No answered texts, phone calls, or any communication. She left all of her possessions at my house. I was, of course, worried for her safety pretty quickly. However, it was confirmed by several of her family members, whom I honestly considered family, that she was fine and just didn't want to talk to me. Story 4. My ex-wife and I separated 5 years ago. We have been divorced for 4 years. To this day, she continues to send me mail. I do not read the letters, so I am unaware of their contents. She also sends pictures of her with other men and similar items. She tried emailing me for a time, but I kept blocking her. Eventually, I set my email filters in such a way that if someone is not on my list, their emails are automatically moved to the spam folder. I assume she still sends emails, though. Story 5. He strangled me and wanted me dead. I would go in and out of consciousness, and he wouldn't let go of me. My neck was bruised afterward. Story 6. Told everyone except me that we were back together. This was after some time when I decided to date again. All my friends were annoyed by it, questioning why I would get back with him. I wasn't, but he told anyone who would listen. This happened just as I was about to tell a gorgeous man that I liked him, and he responded, "Oh, yeah, your boyfriend told me you had a crush on me." My ex found out where this guy worked and told him, even showing him my picture. I was mortified and very angry. Story 7. He created an anonymous social media profile and started to bully me and eventually the next person I was talking to. Story 8. A strange thing my ex did was break up with me and then decided to watch everything I did on Instagram from 2 separate accounts. We had unfriended each other on Facebook, yet she still liked family photos I posted at Christmas time. I am happily blocked on everything now. Story 9. After she got out of jail, she pleaded with me to take her back. She arranged a hotel room and dinner at a nice restaurant. I told her twice that there was a restraining order that required her to stay away from me. Story 10. The weirdest. One ex sent me a pizza shaped like a heart for Valentine's Day, even though we had been broken up for months and didn't talk. He also got really drunk that night and called the police, saying he was trying to break into his house, when I think he really meant to say I was breaking in and was just trying to get me in trouble. I wasn't breaking in. Another ex sent me 5 dozen roses and some lingerie after we had broken up and said he wanted to bury me in it. The worst. My last ex got married to a random woman right after we broke up, but also after he had hired 6 prostitutes and slept with half of the female bartenders in town. Story 11. She acted wholeheartedly as if she was entitled to a second chance because the cheating occurred early in the relationship, before either of us was sure about each other. Story 12. Most recent relationship. Still recovering. We'll call her Jade. I took Jade and her best friend on a 2-hour trip to a concert for a band I've loved for nearly 10 years. The best friend knew a guy who lived in the town we were driving to, so we all stayed at his house. We'll call him Don. We arrived at Don's house, hung out for a bit, then went to the show. Everything seemed cool. We were all having fun and enjoying the opening bands. After the show, the venue had a bar upstairs. Don got drinks and bought one for Jade. Then we went downstairs, and Jade grabbed Don's phone and started taking cute selfies. Don put his arm around her. After the show, we went to another bar. Jade cut our conversation short and got Don's attention to go get drinks. His card declined, and I paid for the drinks. At this point, I didn't know what to think. I knew it was over for me. I was frustrated and upset. We returned to Don's house, and I was very sleep-deprived from getting no sleep the night before. Don wanted to show Jade and her best friend his room. He invited Jade to get stoned outside with him, and I came outside too. We all went to bed, and I did not sleep for nearly the entire night. I was tired but couldn't sleep. The entire trip felt like a nightmare. I spent my last money for the week on gas to get there. A couple of days later, I texted her that we needed to talk after work. I arrived at her house and shared how I felt about the trip. She denied everything and minimized the situation. Then she said, "I need to talk to you about something too. I'm not emotionally ready for a relationship. I still like you and want you around. You didn't do anything wrong." I didn't believe her at all. After that night, I distanced myself and stopped texting her, eventually removing her from all my social media. Then she texted me saying, "I can't believe you're acting like this. I meant it when I said I wanted you to stay around while I healed myself." We texted back and forth for a bit, then made up and were friends again. The following weekend, we hung out again with her and her best friend like we usually did. Everything seemed cool. The next morning, she walked me outside, gave me a hug, and said, "I love you. I'll let you know if we're doing anything tonight." That was the last I heard from her. She stopped interacting with me completely after that. She went back to visit Don and definitely spent the night with him. She posted photos cuddling with him, and I was crushed. She also posted a photo of her with a girl in our group, who I believe she was messing around with as well. The last thing I saw of her was a photo of herself in my old clothes, flipping off the camera. I think she's upset with me. I don't understand how I'm the bad guy or what I did wrong. All I know is that I hate her and never want to see her again. The band we saw live is completely ruined for me. I'm never going to be able to listen to them again. It hurts. I can handle getting dumped for whatever reason, but what really upset me was that she kept me on a string and pulled me back in just so I could see that she had started seeing other people. In summary, she left me for a guy she was flirting with right in front of me, and I think she was also seeing a girl. The last thing I saw was a photo of her in my old clothes, flipping off the camera. The end. Story 13. I attempted to triangulate and manipulate every person in my life and periphery, so I ended those relationships. Then, they used their influence as a police officer to have me investigated by child services in an attempt to remove my parental rights. As of Thursday, I was arrested at my home in front of my neighbors on baseless charges, and all my electronics were seized via a search warrant. Again, this was orchestrated using her influence as a police officer. The charges include false allegations that have led to a restraining order preventing me from seeing my child until the court date next month. This situation seems like it would qualify. Story 14. She claimed I was in a three-way relationship with my lesbian friend and her wife. I am a man. She also claimed I was abusing her. When I showed up at her house after ending our relationship, she called the police to say I was screaming at her. However, I already had the police on the phone in my pocket. She did not know that, but it is the legal way to record people in my state. I needed to retrieve some of my belongings. She started sending anonymous texts to my friends, threatening them, and then lied to the police and on Facebook, claiming my friends were sending the texts to themselves. She blocked me on Facebook after that, but mutual friends still sent screenshots to me. 6 months after I left her, she went off the rails again and got into a fight with her lesbian best friend. We knew many LGBTQ people. She then concocted a story about how I was paying her best friends and her best friend's wife's rent and childcare costs. About a year later, the man she had been dating since I left her also left because she would not stop crying and posting on Facebook that she missed me and still loved me. The two of them filed for a loan on a fifth-wheel trailer together. They lived in it in her mother's backyard. Now she is struggling to pay the loan without a steady income and without a driver's license. Story 15. She informed her parents that I had died. Then, her father wrote my parents a condolence letter because he believed her. Story 16. Let me go. I stopped talking to my ex and posted on Instagram. He randomly chose the one person I was talking to at the time and sent them a direct message to say I was cheating and not to talk to me anymore. I was shown the messages, and I tried to explain that my ex is unstable, but he wouldn't believe me. I wasn't going to sit there and try to convince him because, given the situation, this does look insane, but I am not lying. I asked him if he believed me, and he said no, and we never spoke again. Story 17. Not taking no for an answer, he called me from different numbers and showed up at my house so I would take him back. Story 18. I was in a band. One ex dated my band mate after me. That wasn't nice, but the worst thing, she begged me to give it a second chance. She had called it off but changed her mind afterward and really pushed me to try again. I told her I didn't believe it could still work, and she pushed further. I did love her, so I eventually caved. It was nice for a short while, then she fell back into being unhappy. Because she'd worked so hard to convince me to give it another try, she didn't want to call it off again. Instead, she started becoming impatient and irritated with me. At the same time, she suggested we should get engaged soon while we were still young. Despite the way she was treating me, I eventually proposed, and she said yes. We celebrated out on the town, but in the morning, when I woke up, she was sitting up in bed, staring into space. I didn't even have to ask. I ended it because she didn't have the nerve to, and then we had a very awkward flight home. We were about to leave for the flight when all this happened, so we didn't get a chance to really talk. When we landed, her mother was there to meet us. She ran over and congratulated us. As my ex-girlfriend had told them about the engagement the night before, we didn't want to tell her mother what had happened right there at the airport, so I just had to play along. She offered me a ride home, and I had to decline despite her insistence, without providing an explanation. She left, and I sat at the airport alone, taking a moment to process everything that had happened. We didn't speak about the breakup at all until about 8 years later. The whole affair left me with this unshakable feeling that I'm annoying and unlovable. I still feel that way, and it has permeated every relationship in my life since. Story 19. I was moving my things out of the apartment, and I asked her if I could have the ring she bought months prior, to which she responded, "I didn't buy that for you. Thank you for the information. It's a difficult way to discover you were being unfaithful while we were looking for another apartment together." Story 20. My ex wanted our larger dog when we separated. She preferred him, so I accepted. I took the rest of the animals. He rehomed her the weekend after our divorce was finalized, never giving me the option to keep her with our family, and wouldn't tell me where she was. She was already a rescue. It was so petty and heartbreaking. Our child still brings her up occasionally. This was the worst thing he did because it didn't hurt me, only our child and our dog. Story 21. Come back and leave. I promise you she has her foot out the door, but she's upset because I'm on the other side of the state now, and I don't care that she's leaving again. Story 22. Accused me of making him sleep in a closet. He told all of our coworkers that I forced him to walk to work. This was a 26-year-old man who chose to walk to work and act like a martyr because he wouldn't put in the effort to get his driver's license. As for the closet, it was actually an entire computer room that he spent nearly all his time in. As far as I know, he is still couch surfing, doesn't have a license, and just plays video games. Story 23. Back in the 1990s, my girlfriend dumped me and ran off with some guy from Kentucky because he looked and talked just like Matthew McConaughey. She went to Alaska with him to work on a fishing boat. He tricked her into working the slime line on a processing vessel, which is slightly worse than prison. You never see the light of day. Anyway, she got caught with another man on the ship, and her new boyfriend beat her in a drunken rage. Months after she left, she showed up at my place as if I had forgotten everything. She wanted me to get her some marijuana, which I don't use. I told her to leave and never come back. She married someone in Portland, manipulated him into having a baby, and then cheated on him as well. Story 24. We lived together until I discovered she had been cheating on me for 2 years. She randomly showed up at my new apartment. I had all my locations turned off, and only my parents knew where I had moved. They had stopped speaking to her. I still don't know how she found out where I lived. She convinced me to let her in and wanted to know if we could still talk and if I would be okay with her now being a side partner. Story 25. Someone stole my wallet and moved to another city. Losing money is fine, but my father's final letter to me before he died was also in that wallet. It was before Facebook or any social media existed, so yes. Story 26. I called the police to my house, and she falsely accused me of assault. She then whispered to me that she had hidden drugs in my apartment and demanded £1,000 on the spot. threatening to inform the police if I didn't comply. I had broken up with her and asked her to leave my apartment about a week before this incident, after witnessing her stealing money from my wallet while she thought I was asleep. Story 27. I kept my legal documents for a year and a half while going through the visa process, which I believe was an attempt to sabotage my chances of staying in the country. We had been together for 7 years. He also tried to take my couch. When I said no, he canceled a meeting where I was supposed to retrieve my documents. Despite this, I managed to extend my visa without those documents. Life changed dramatically for the better after I left him. Story 28. He continued to call for months, wanting to connect. I blocked him on everything, but he calls from a private number and leaves voicemails. They are usually about how his girlfriend is gone or already asleep and that he needs intimacy. It has been over a year now. Story 29. When I was 22, I was dating an older man who suggested I obtain my birth control through a site in Canada because it was much cheaper, and he wanted to pay for it. He claimed he got all his prescriptions from there. I was a naive young adult and agreed. After I learned he was taking pictures of me while I was drunk and uploading them to websites, I decided to leave him. He was incredibly persuasive and had received numerous discounts on trivial items despite being very wealthy. I called the Canadian company to change the payment method and add a password to the account to prevent him from accessing it. I emphasized the importance of this to the company. 2 weeks after I left him, he called to brag that he had his sister call and pretend to be me to purchase the remaining 9 months of birth control and have it sent to his house. His reason was to punish me for leaving without telling him first. I went to the police to file a report, but they said they did not know what they could charge him with, despite my having text evidence. In summary, no report was filed, and I had to pretend to be his girlfriend again for a couple of weeks so I could search his house while he was not home. I found the birth control, seal unbroken, hidden behind an air conditioning vent on the 3rd story of his home. Thankfully, I was able to fend off his advances and slept fully clothed during that time. After I left him, I used the birth control but was never with a partner just in case he had tampered with it. I used it to regulate my period pain each month, as it was intended. Story 30. One of my ex-partners came into the house, stole all my personal items, gifted me a giant beautiful peace lily, did the yard work, and cleaned up the house while I was away for the weekend. They never left a note, and I was confused as to who did that. I learned to change the locks after every breakup because of this. In another case, someone found out my fridge had broken down and had a new one delivered to my house. One ex paid my rent for 6 months after we broke up. Another ex dropped off Halloween candy for my children in a box with a note. That was really sweet, thank you. My youngest child's father received a message from my ex saying we broke up because I had a darkness inside of me, and congratulated me for finally ending the relationship. Another ex messaged people telling them I had dementia because I suddenly didn't recognize him or want him in the house, changed the locks, and didn't want his location shared. This was the same day we met up, and I signed the form to transfer the internet service to my name since he had moved out. Another ex called to tell me he had met another woman with the same name. One ex called to tell me the fish I bought him for his birthday had died. That was really sad. Story 31. I reached out to try to work on things. We spent a few days together and it seemed all right. Then I woke up to a lengthy message on why she cared more about me than I did for her and how she believed I had been unfaithful, listing everything she thought was wrong with me. It was absurd. I had not been unfaithful at all. Story 32. I went to a rave where she was being quite touchy with one of my friends. She even kissed a girl. I didn't recognize the woman I fell in love with. Story 33. He lied about cheating because he said I wouldn't want to break up with him in a different way, like I would in a heartbeat. Story 34. I have someone who is determined to ruin my and my new partner's reputations. He continues to try to bully us and spreads completely false narratives to whoever will listen. He's blocked on everything, but that doesn't stop people from telling me about it. It's been 3 years, and he still can't seem to stop talking about my partner and me. We aren't participating at all and never have. This person is truly problematic. Story 35. I took the dog and car and revoked my green card application. Even though I had already completed the interview and medical examination. It is better than being killed, but it ruined my career prospects, and I am out of a lot of money. I still do not have a green card, but I am overthinking that currently, as the United States does not seem as promising as it did last year. Story 36. She dumped me. In retrospect, it was earned. It was her right. 2 years after she married, she called me and said she was miserable. She asked me to say the word, and she would leave him for me. I can't express how much self-control it took to say this, but I told her she was married now. If she had problems, I could recommend good divorce lawyers, as I am a lawyer. She hung up after casting aspersions on my ancestry and inviting me to eternal damnation. A few months ago, she called me again and repeated the offer from years ago. I told her the same thing, and now she has children. We have a few mutual friends. From what they have told me, her marriage seems to be good. I can only speculate that her issue is thinking of me as the one that got away. Story 37. I'm sorry you have had to go through this. I hope it's over and you're with people who love and take care of you. I think I might be a bad ex-friend to someone I have feelings for. I really messed up a great friendship. Story 38. She broke up with me over text and then spent the next 3 days staying at my house for some reason, as if nothing happened. Story 39. I took one of those chocolates that are supposed to enhance things. He claimed he tried it to make himself tired, as it had made him tired the first time we used it together. Instead, this time it made him very excited. At one point, I went to my bedroom in our one-room apartment, where I slept while he stayed on the couch until his flight a few days later. Later, I received a text from him complaining about the chocolate. I suggested he take care of himself in the bathroom. After a while, he texted me again saying it didn't work and asked if we could be intimate. I agreed, and it was fine, nothing great. We ended up giving up because no one finished. Story 40. My ex-husband first left me in the emergency room to go to the bar with his friends. A couple of days after I was released from the hospital, he drove me to another state, left me there with no transportation or house keys, blocked me on everything, and emailed me for a divorce. He took all of our savings on a sabbatical from life, while secretly not paying any of the bills he was responsible for months. I had nearly died from blood clots and was an unemployed graduate student at the time, having returned to school for my master's degree to switch to a more stable and lucrative career. Story 41. Trying to befriend all of my friends and sharing his side of the story, which conveniently leaves out many details, while telling everyone that I'm the one who can't move on. Story 42. About 6 months after the breakup, she publicly accused me of rape and of sexually harassing a friend of her younger sister, who was underage at the time. I was in my late 20s, seemingly unsatisfied with ruining my reputation. She attempted to have me jailed with these accusations, but fortunately, the police noticed several inconsistencies in her story early on. The final blow to her scheme came when her sister and the friend I supposedly harassed decided to tell the police that none of this ever happened. Additionally, the relationship ended when I discovered she was cheating on me and told her to pack up and leave. Story 43. He called me over 6 years later, expressing how he had changed and how he deserved an apology. It was incredibly surreal because our relationship had been miserable, yet he spoke as if we were still together during the call. Then, unexpectedly, he left his entire childhood Lego collection on my doorstep. I can only assume it was an attempt to win me over, knowing how much I love Lego. I was genuinely concerned about his behavior, so I reached out to one of his family members. They were able to help him get into therapy, and he ended up thanking me afterward. I saved his Lego collection because I knew it was meaningful to him, but he insisted I should have it. Still, it is very strange to me. Story 44. I have been mostly lucky. My weirdest experience was when an ex-partner sneaked onto my America Online account for about a month after we broke up in 2002 and read my emails. He possibly even saw who was instant messaging me. I only found out because a friend messaged me later and mentioned that I had been online earlier that day when I was actually in class. I then checked my login record and saw unusual times that coincided with when he was free and knew I wasn't home. Story 45. Following a contentious split, during which I had to ask my unfaithful boyfriend to move out of my apartment, He sent me a package containing all the things I had given him during our relationship. In the box was also a letter portraying me as the bad guy. Story 46. A friend of mine's ex insisted that she return his baby photos, which she never requested in the first place. He probably thought it was cute that couples exchange baby pictures. He also asked her to return the money for a laptop he bought her for work, which she never asked for either. Since she earns more than him, she paid him back to get him off her back. Story 47. One loosened the lug nuts on my car tire. I was driving to work the next morning when my tire flew off into the parking lot of a gas station. I was only going about 40 miles per hour, thank goodness. Another person accused me of vandalism. They also stalked and harassed me online. Story 48. She gave me the dogs we owned back after a year and a half of being apart on Valentine's Day of all days. It was probably the best Valentine's gift I ever received. Her reason was that they were not getting along with her new boyfriend's dog, so she decided to give up her own. I might have complained about it if I hadn't been benefiting from the situation. Story 49. She lied about her dad dying in an attempt to gain sympathy and manipulate me into staying. 10 years later, she is married, and guess who walked her down the aisle? Story 50. My ex changed my tire for me when he picked up my daughter. He did not tighten the lug nuts when he was done. While driving down a country road, about a quarter mile from the highway, the tire fell off. I spun around once. I was very lucky that no one else was on the road and that I hadn't reached the highway yet. Story 51. My last ex before I met my wife cheated on me with a guy I told her I didn't trust. When he had no real interest in dating her, she tried to get back with me. Not that weird, right? After I told her no, she mailed me a handwritten letter that was 8 pages long, front and back. This was in 2014, so all forms of digital communication existed. In the letter, she went from trying to win me back to judging me for going out to bars and attempting to dictate what I was doing with my life. Needless to say, I never responded to her letter or spoke to her again, thankfully. Story 52. She gave me a $50 gift card and wrote an essay about how she missed me 6 months after she cheated on me with her ex, leading to our breakup. Story 53. My 8-year ex-boyfriend thought it was okay to email me out of the blue with a list of the people he had hooked up with after we broke up. Story 54. I lived with an ex for 4 years until one day she decided to pack her bags and go to her friend's place. I wasn't completely blindsided as things had been going badly for the past several months. But the sudden decision came with no prior conversation. We talked in that moment and agreed to give our 2 months' notice the following week, as the relationship was over. A couple of weeks later, I received a call at 3 a.m. from her, and she was crying. She asked if she could come over for the night, and I obliged. After all, her name was on the lease. She arrived and was visibly drunk. I asked what happened, and she explained that she was out with her friend. Her friend was talking to a guy, and when she went to the bathroom, the guy started hitting on her. One thing led to another, and she left with the guy while her friend was in the bathroom. This resulted in her friend telling her not to come back to her place that night. Up until that moment, I had really been missing her, but all those feelings instantly evaporated. So the morning came, and before I took my dog out, I woke her up. I told her we would be at the park for an hour or two and asked her to be gone before we came home. That was the last time I saw her. Story 55. I caught my first wife viewing my LinkedIn profile a couple of times. Once about 10 years ago and again last year. I think there was one other time too, quite a few years earlier. We were divorced in 1990 and have had no contact since then. We didn't have children, so there was never a need for it. Even though she remarried a couple of years later, she still uses my last name to this day. When I learned that, I joked with a mutual friend that I am still in touch with that. Maybe she just got tired of the hassle of changing it every few years, as I was her third marriage. My friend confirmed that this was exactly the reason. For those who may not know, certain membership levels with LinkedIn provide a list of members who have viewed your profile. Story 56. He watched my Instagram account from a third-party viewing site to track my location. He then showed up at bars and nightclubs where I was working to harass me. On one occasion, He had a very public meltdown and yelled at me until security intervened. He sent me 71 bank transactions of 1 cent each over the course of a month before I went to the police and got them to block his bank from sending any further transactions. He posted a photo from my Instagram in a "Do we have the same girlfriend" Facebook group 6 weeks after we stopped talking. I wasn't seeing anyone at the time, but a friend of a friend commented, "Are you the 1 cent guy?" He recruited one of his new girlfriends to message me on multiple platforms, harassing me with lengthy paragraphs. It really crippled my social life for a while because I was so scared of running into him in public. Story 57. Pretended to be in a relationship with an online male colleague who lived in a different country. Put the relationship start date on Facebook the day after ending things. Included his name in her bio too, then removed it 2 days after Valentine's Day after failing to get a reaction from me. Even posted silly TikToks about how she found everything she ever wanted. Was so in love yet couldn't stop herself from liking and loving my friend's social media posts as if nothing ever happened. Even 6 months after I left her, she completely lost her mind. Story 58. After he openly cheated 3 months before our wedding, despite feeling broken and crushed, I told him to move out. I would stay in the house and prepare it for sale. He moved out, and with every repair and paint job, I grew stronger and moved on. For months later, I met someone new. When my ex found out, he began stalking me and attempted to break into the house. When that didn't work, he threatened to take his life. I contacted his mother and informed her about the situation, suggesting that his family intervene to help him before I called the police. He wasn't genuinely in love. It was a game, and when I stopped playing, he fell apart. 21 years later, I realized that the day he came home covered in makeup was the luckiest day of my life, though I didn't recognize it at the time. Story 59. I made a photo album of my son and me as a Christmas present. He tried to force me to slow dance with him, sent people to spy on me while I took my son trick-or-treating, and accused me of being unfaithful when I started a new relationship. Story 60. Chatting with another girl while still in contact with my best friend, I was acting casually as if we were peers when we met in person. Story 61. Backstory made short. We dated twice, years apart. The first time, she left me for someone else. She reached out a few times afterward but eventually disappeared for a few years. Years later, our paths crossed again, and I mistakenly thought she had changed. I took her back, and she cheated on me with an ex not even a full month in. I ended things immediately and blocked her. A few months later, she decided to post my pictures all over various social media platforms, including public groups, along with a series of horrendous lies about me. She claimed I was arrested, that I used to beat her, and that I was some sort of violent maniac. She even concocted a ridiculous story about our breakup, saying she was the one who dumped me and that I got mad, beat her, smashed all her dishes, and was taken away by the police in cuffs. I found out about this from others since I had blocked her on everything. Friends showed me screenshots and evidence of this misinformation on their phones. Besides never having been arrested in my life, I never laid a hand on her violently, nor did I ever raise my voice. When I discovered she had cheated on me with an ex while I was at work the night before, I tried to handle it maturely. There was no yelling or name-calling. I kept my cool and simply told her it was over and to lose my number. I left her place and blocked her. Story 62. He found the therapist I was seeing during our relationship, booked an appointment with her, then turned up and demanded to know what we had discussed and what I had said about him. I didn't find out until over a year later when I called to schedule an appointment with her again. Story 63. Someone's ex put a couple of gallons of water in my gas tank, thinking it was their ex's car. I got about a block away before my car broke down. That cost about $1,200 in 2011. I called the police and they showed little concern. Sometimes bad things happen to you and it's not your fault, but it's also not serious enough for anyone to care. Story 64. My entire divorce was unusual. Most of it involved very personal matters that would not be interesting to a general audience. I suspect her lawyer contributed significantly to this situation, advising my ex in ways that increased billable hours but did not necessarily benefit her client. My two favorite incidents were 1. Her explicitly testifying against herself at trial, and 2. Going to trial to obtain alimony and then losing it because she started living with her new boyfriend. To explain, 1. We have 3 children, each of whom provides tax credits each year. According to her attorney, she wanted all 3 credits. This was one of 4 issues in dispute at trial. During the trial, her lawyer questioned her for 6 hours. Most of her testimony was intended to disparage me, with very little being relevant to the case. During cross-examination, my lawyer sensibly asked my ex what she wanted regarding each of the issues. My lawyer aimed to get those desires on record for the purpose of disputing them. Consequently, my attorney asked my ex how the tax credits should be divided. My ex responded that they should be split evenly. My lawyer did a noticeable double take and subsequently asked the judge to stipulate that the tax credits should indeed be evenly divided, as that was our request. The significant issue at trial was that my ex demanded a substantial amount of alimony. I don't recall the exact figure, but I believe it was around $1,750 per month, with no flexibility. The laws on alimony are somewhat ambiguous in my state, but a major factor is that the recipient must demonstrate a financial need, while the payer must have a financial excess. We believed that my ex should receive nothing for various reasons. In any case, we proceeded to trial, which likely cost us around $50,000 in legal fees combined. Between the trial and the judge's ruling, my ex purchased a house with her new boyfriend. In my state, cohabiting with a new romantic partner is grounds for modifying alimony. Thus, she fought hard to secure some alimony, only to relinquish it immediately. Story 65. He wrote several albums and songs about me and sent long paragraphs each year for my birthday. I haven't seen him in 6 years. It slows down but never really stops. Story 66. His mother asked for everything she ever gave me back, and he asked if I should return the wedding ring. I was allowed to keep a comforter that I had intimate relations on with other people. Story 67. I've had a few experiences that I usually don't mention, but my favorite is when they try to win me back. I don't mean revenge, but rather reconciliation. I typically end relationships for good reasons, so I don't go back. Can get intense and uncomfortable. The best experience was the scrapbook she created for me, praising all the things she previously criticized me for and used as justification to cheat. What a complete turnaround. Story 68. Call me crying because I put them in a difficult financial situation. The new person is not helping with the rent and is being abusive. Story 69. My ex-husband was trying to cheat on me, and I caught him because he logged into his email on one of my devices. When I found out, he had moved all of my belongings from the apartment to a storage unit in only his name while I was at school. This included my toothbrush, fish food, and everything else. Since it was only in his name, I couldn't get my things back unless I sued him. I was like, if you want my clothes and stuff so badly, keep it all. Then he married a girl who looked exactly like me. Story 70. He texted me on New Year's Eve, apologizing for how he treated me during our complicated situationship. I thanked him but said I didn't want to stay in contact anymore, as I was in a new relationship and didn't want to waste any more energy on him, even as an acquaintance. He then sent me inappropriate photos over text and contacted me through 4 different social media platforms until I blocked him everywhere. He got married to a girl younger than me. He is 13 years my senior, 3 months after I ended things, and I'm honestly relieved I dodged that bullet. By the way, he was engaged when he sent those photos, and rumor has it that marriage has not changed his behavior in the slightest. Story 71. He chased me through my apartment complex when I managed to escape the apartment where he had barricaded me. I was unable to outrun him, so once he caught me, he choked me until I started crying. I saw veins in his neck and darkness in his eyes. However, my crying snapped him out of it. Story 72. My ex and I used to go to an indie rock night at a local club 1 or 2 Fridays a month with a big group of friends. After we broke up, because she was too immature and made many reckless, self-destructive decisions, I planned a night out at this club specifically with my friends. The breakup was difficult, with her threatening self-harm if I didn't stay with her and throwing a plate at my head, which I was lucky to dodge. I told her several days before the night out that I would be there, and would appreciate it if she didn't go to that specific club to avoid any distress or drama. She agreed it would be a bad idea and said she would go out in a bigger city instead. Fast forward to the day, she showed up at the club with her friends, basically because her friends didn't care enough about her feelings to change their plans to attend indie night. I resolved to stay out of her way on different floors of the club. However, she kept following me, always being within sight of me and clearly checking what I was doing. I had been talking to a girl I knew from university and went to get us drinks. When I returned, the girl advised me that a strange drunk girl had warned her away from me. I was platonic friends with this girl, but I could see from my ex's perspective that this could have looked like I was hitting on her. Later on, my ex approached me on the dance floor, getting in my face and pointing at me, although I couldn't hear what she was saying. Immaturely, to placate her, I told her to go to the roof bar and that I would come to speak with her, never intending to follow her and planning to leave the club. After about 5 minutes of waiting for my friends to regroup, the bouncers came over and told me I had to leave. I inquired why, and they said there were complaints from girls that I had been creepy and inappropriate. I was bemused but left quietly. She had basically told the bar staff that I was an abusive and violent ex who had followed her to the club. I was even briefly banned until a mutual friend who worked there sorted it out. Later on, she created a fake profile of me on a dating app and made me seem unstable to many local girls until a friend on the platform showed me. I threatened to involve the police, which stopped the dating app harassment, but it did not stop her from emailing my workplace and claiming they had employed a woman beater, something she gleefully sent me, although my workplace never took any action or even raised it with me. She also waited outside my mother's workplace to ask her to arrange a mediation. My mother was deeply unimpressed. Eventually, she met someone new and her campaign stopped, but for a good 3 months after the breakup, I was worried she would do something irrational that could permanently damage my life. Story 73. Shortly after I experienced a psychotic break, he intentionally made me feel paranoid for his amusement, as we were still in communication. I was an immature 18-year-old who still had feelings for him. Story 74. I ended the relationship about a week before my birthday. She wrote me a birthday card expressing her frustration about the breakup. Story 75. An example from 2 years ago involved an individual who came to my workplace twice. He met with my friends and shared his side of the story while asking about whom I spoke to and how I had been during those days. I ultimately had to resign from that job due to safety concerns, as he knew where I worked. Story 76. Weirdest. I received an email threatening to kill me. I still have it, you never know. Then she tried to sleep with my best friend. Worst. Not as bad as some of the other things I've heard. Those are rough and I feel for everyone. Anyway, we were together for a year and a half when I was 15 or 16, and she was a year younger. We weren't sexually active for most of that time because she wanted to wait and take it slow. I was her first. She went on a week-long skiing trip after my 16th birthday. She made new friends there and broke up with me for one of them when she returned, in person with him. The week after, she sent me pictures and videos of them being intimate. Years later, when I was getting my driver's license, my instructor had to intervene and stop me from driving onto the pavement where she was standing at a traffic light. I still hate her after almost 25 years. It still hurts. Weirdest and worst are two different people. Stay strong. Strangers. Story 77. She had an affair. When I kicked her out, she returned to my house to get some belongings. Previously, I was getting rid of many things like pictures of us. She went through the house and took all the pictures of us together. In those pictures, we were walking on a beach hand in hand and had some sunset pictures as well. I always thought it was strange that she did that, especially since she had a long affair with someone from work. You don't truly love someone you cheat on. I'm glad, though, because now I have my wonderful girlfriend and 2 boys, and my house has never been happier. I want to add that I don't hate my ex at all. I don't harbor negative feelings in any way. I was also not innocent, as I didn't show her any affection. She did what she did, but in reality, the relationship had been over a long time ago. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.